Sunday Morning Matters on KC24, your local election headquarters.
I came to talk to you today because my dad gave me a bruise because my sister was teasing me, and he thought that I hurt her. So my dad gave me a bruise, and then I had to talk with somebody.
More jaw-dropping testimony from the alleged victim, Dr. Joaquin Arambula's 7-year-old daughter. The case will soon be in the hands of the jury. We want to bring in our esteemed panel for the week. Time to take roll call. Here we go. The news director for GV Wire, Bill McEwen. To his left, former Republican congressional candidate Elizabeth Heng. Welcome. And Region 8 Director for the California Democratic Party, Humberto Gomez. Welcome all, lady and gents. You know, I want to start with you, Humberto. Obviously, you're part of the Democratic Party here. You're kind of hearing this case really play out in front of a jury. It's playing out in front of everybody's home as we do this. The Democratic Party, how do they feel about this right now?
I think in terms, I was just at the Democratic fundraiser this past Friday with Secretary Castro. And I could tell you that within everybody there, that they're very supportive of Dr. Joaquin Arambula and his family. We've seen, you know, his daughter testify. Obviously, as a father, it was definitely traumatic for me. Mm-hmm. But now that the prosecution has demonstrated their case, now it's time for the defense. I believe, you know, that they're going to go ahead and present their evidence in their case, and so we'll see what happens, and definitely that was something that was noticeable at the dinner.
And Bill, I want to come over to you because if we were the jury right now, what are you thinking if you're part of this jury right now?
So I see testimony from a 7- and a 6-year-old girl. They're all over the place in their testimony, but there are things that have been said telling details that if I was sitting in the juror's box, I would tend to believe that something significant has happened in the past as far as how they've been disciplined. Not the best discipline. And the one thing I remember is the description by the 7-year-old of the assemblyman entering the room with his fist balled up. And I raised 2 sons. They're both adults now, and they tested my patients sometime, but I can tell you I never entered a room to talk to them with my fist balled up being that mad.
Yeah, there's a lot of telling testimony here, and a lot of it very dramatic. Elizabeth, I want to come to you. There's 6 women on this jury as well with the 6 men. If you're a woman and you're listening to this and you're listening to this heartbreaking testimony from a 7-year-old, a 6-year-old, the CPS worker telling their account of what happened on that day in question, what's going through your mind?
The first thing that's going through my mind is it's so important for us as a society to take care of children, to make sure they're protected. The idea that, you know, we have potentially a representative that has potentially hit their child, whether that's slapped, grabbed, pinned down, is inappropriate just in general for our society. So we need to make sure that politics aside, that we are trying this thoroughly, but at the same time due process does take place, and that it's not just public judgment that is making the decision for what's happening.
I'll punctuate it here because I want to move on to some other topics. Humberto, you said when this first started, when the prosecution, or I should say the DA's office gave that misdemeanor charge, you said this was all political. Do you still firmly believe it's all political and that this charge is politically motivated?
I do. Honestly, I do.
Still, right now, you feel like that?
I still feel that way because when CPS closed the case, they didn't say, you know what, who escalated the case? The district attorney's office said. So CPS closed the case, and they said, guess what? They returned to their parents. To me, that's a great justification to say, you know what, there's nothing more further that we have to do.
Bill, I know you're looking at me.
No,
when I see Bill looking at me, I got to go straight to you. What are you thinking?
No, so I think that assembly members held to a higher standard. I wrote this in a column that you can read at GV Wire, and that if the case basically disappeared, the DA's office, police department would be accused of sweeping something under the rug. So they were under the spotlight immediately. And I also think that it was unfortunate for the assembly member to go on that media tour.
Yeah.
And obviously he interviewed with KC24, he interviewed with GV Wire, and I think that was a concern for the police and the district attorney's office, that his statements to the public were not matching up.
All right, I want to move on to something that is kind of odd. Mayor Lee Brand decides to utilize his first veto ever. And this is a struggle over office space, and we're not calling out Milton to find his stapler here. We're talking about office space. So on April 25th, they voted 5-1, did the city council members, to take space used by the city manager's office and assign it to council staff and interns. Well, Mayor Brand said, no, that's not what we're doing. We're not moving people on the other side of the building and away from the administration. Elizabeth, I'll start with you here. Is City Council just trying to get the ire of Mayor Brand here?
No, I think it's even ridiculous that we're having this conversation.
Well, but he used the veto power on this.
He used that, but I equally think it's inappropriate that our City Council, with all the issues we have here in Fresno to deal with, that we're talking about office space.
Yeah.
We should be talking about everything from child education to the challenges we have with, drugs and all the dire issues facing our community. We should not be arguing.
Isn't
about
it odd, though,
space.
they worked out the SB1 conundrum and they couldn't figure out office space here? Does this look silly?
I think it does, but also the mayor has an election coming up. So I think it's also, I don't know what it is, but in terms of conflict resolution skills, I think maybe they could have used some in terms of the mayor.
Yeah.
In terms of the city council members, they, when you insult back and forth, because I think this is one of the city manager's statements, according to what I read, that, it's always a ghost town in there. So obviously that didn't help the situation.
Bill, I got 10 seconds to punctuate this. Did Mayor Brand just want to say, hey, I'm the boss?
Well, it's always about something else when you have this kind of thing, and I think it's a little bit about the mayor's race. It's about the council showing that if you can count to 5, it's not a strong mayor form of government.
Yeah.
And finally, as soon as I read and heard about it, I just thought of Allen Iverson,
Yeah.
the
Oh,
great
boy.
NBA player, saying, we're talking about practice.
Guys, I got to punctuate it there. Way to go, Bill, for bringing that one up.